You won't believe what goes on behind the scenes at Bugatti, because what Mat Armstrong uncovered is not just car production. It's almost like a secret science lab for building perfection. And today, we're going inside that world. Before we start, imagine this for a second. A car that costs millions, but every single bolt, every carbon fiber panel, every detail is touched by human hands more carefully than a piece of art in a museum. That's Bugatti. But what if I told you even that is just the surface? Because Mat Armstrong didn't just visit a factory. He stepped into a system that very few people on Earth ever get to see. And what he found changes everything you think you know about hypercars. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most car factories in the world are about speed, efficiency, mass production, one car after another rolling off a line. But Bugatti, it's the opposite. It's not a production line. It's more like a slow perfection chamber. Every single car takes months. Not because they are slow, but because they are obsessed with something most companies have forgotten: absolute perfection. And Matt noticed something strange immediately. There was no noise chaos, no rushing, no panic. Everything felt controlled, almost silent. Like every worker knew they weren't just building a car. They were building a legacy. But then came the first shock. The chassis of the Bugatti isn't treated like a normal frame. It's inspected like a living organism. Workers don't just assemble it. They examine it under lights, measure it multiple times, and if something is even slightly off, it doesn't get fixed. It gets replaced. Completely. Because at Bugatti, repairing mistakes is not acceptable. Only perfection is. And this is where Matt started realizing something deeper. This isn't manufacturing. It's elimination of imperfection at every stage. Now let's go deeper. The carbon fiber process is where things get even crazier. Most companies use pre-made panels, but Bugatti does something different. Each carbon fiber layer is placed with surgical precision. Even the temperature of the room is controlled so the material doesn't react differently. Think about that for a second. Even the air around the car is engineered. And Matt noticed technicians wearing gloves not just for safety, but because even a fingerprint can affect the final surface quality. That's when he said something in his reaction that stood out. This doesn't feel like car production. This feels like aerospace engineering. But the real secret wasn't even visible yet. Because Bugatti has something most people don't know. Every single car is assigned a craft identity. That means no two cars are ever truly identical in process, even if they look the same. Why? Because each one is hand-finished by specialists who focus only on that single unit for weeks. Imagine dedicating weeks of your life just to one door panel. And that's normal here. But then comes the part that shocked Matt the most. The engines. You would think in a factory like this, engines are assembled in a fast robotic process. Wrong. Each engine is built almost like a custom masterpiece. One technician often oversees a large part of the assembly from start to finish. And every step is documented, checked, and rechecked. But here's the twist. Even after full assembly, the engine doesn't go straight into a car. It goes through testing that feels more extreme than the car will ever experience in real life. Because Bugatti doesn't build engines for normal use. They build them for the absolute limit, and then go beyond it. Now let's talk about something Matt didn't expect at all. The human side. In most factories, workers are under pressure. Fast deadlines, targets, production goals. But here, it's almost the opposite mindset. Workers move slow, but intentional. There's pride in every action. Because everyone knows one mistake doesn't just affect a product. It affects a brand that represents the entire top tier of automotive history. And that pressure creates something powerful. Not stress, but obsession with detail. And that's what separates Bugatti from everyone else. Now here comes the most insane part Matt discovered. Quality control is not the final step. It happens at every step. That means a part doesn't move forward until it is approved at multiple levels. Not one, not two, multiple. It's like the car is constantly being judged from creation to completion. And this is where Matt pauses and realizes something most viewers miss. This system is not built for scale. It is built for immortality. Because Bugatti doesn't want to make thousands of cars. They want to make unforgettable ones. Now think about this. In a world where companies fight to produce more, faster, cheaper, Bugatti fights to produce fewer, slower, and better. And that contradiction is exactly why it stands at the top. But the biggest secret Matt hinted at isn't even in the machines or materials. It's the philosophy, because Bugatti doesn't see customers as buyers. They see them as collectors of engineering history. Every car is treated like a final exam, a test of everything they know about physics, design, and craftsmanship. And if even one detail feels average, the entire process is reconsidered. That level of obsession is what makes these cars not just vehicles, but rolling pieces of art. Now imagine this, a machine that can go over 400 kilometers per hour, but was built by hands that care more about a millimeter of alignment than speed itself. That's a paradox of Bugatti. And that's what Mat Armstrong walked through. At the end of his experience, there's a moment where everything becomes clear. This isn't just about making cars. It's about proving what happens when human skill refuses to accept limits, when patience becomes power, when detail becomes identity, and when perfection is not a goal, but a requirement. So the next time you see a Bugatti on the road, remember this. You're not just looking at a car. You're looking at thousands of hours of obsession, compressed into one machine. And that is the real secret Bugatti never needs to advertise. Because once you understand it, you don't forget it. And that's exactly why this story stays with you. But now here's something most people completely miss when they watch content like this. Because while we're amazed by the cars, the carbon fiber, the engines, and the precision, there's a deeper question sitting underneath all of it. Why go this far? Why spend months on something others try to build in days? And the answer isn't just luxury. It's control. Total control over every possible variable that can affect performance, safety, and experience. Mat Armstrong noticed that nothing inside a facility is accidental. Not the lighting, not the workflow, not even the movement of people between stations. Everything is designed to reduce uncertainty. Because in Bugatti's world, uncertainty is the enemy. And that mindset changes everything. Now imagine this. If one tiny defect can affect a car that moves at extreme speeds, then even a microscopic flaw becomes a big problem. That's why inspection isn't just a step here, it's a culture. Every technician becomes a kind of perfection guardian. And that's when Matt starts realizing something even more powerful. This system doesn't just build better cars. It builds better discipline. Every person working there is trained to think differently, to slow down in a fast world, to value precision over pressure. And in today's world where everything is rushed, that itself is rare. But let's go back inside the factory again, because there's another layer most viewers don't see. The paint process. Now you might think painting a car is simple. Spray, dry, polish. But at Bugatti, it's closer to creating a mirror-like sculpture. Each layer is inspected under special lighting that reveals even the smallest inconsistency. And if the reflection isn't perfect, it goes back. No compromise. No shortcuts. And that's where you start to understand the mindset shift. At Bugatti, time is not money. Time is quality. And quality cannot be rushed. Now here's something interesting Matt picked up during his walkthrough. There's no mass celebration when a car is finished. No loud hype. No dramatic exit. Just quiet satisfaction. Because for them, finishing a car is not an achievement. It's just another step in an ongoing pursuit of perfection. And that's what makes it so different from the rest of the automotive world. But the most powerful moment comes when Matt stands back and looks at the entire process as a whole. From raw carbon fiber sheets, to hand-assembled engines, to perfectly aligned panels, to final testing. And he realizes something simple but deep. This is not just manufacturing. This is patience turned into engineering. Now think about that for a second. In a world where everything is becoming automated, fast, and disposable, Bugatti is doing the opposite. It's slowing everything down, on purpose, and yet producing some of the fastest machines ever created. That contradiction is what makes it legendary, because speed on the road starts with slowness in the factory. And that's a lesson that goes far beyond cars. It applies to anything in life where excellence matters. Whether it's building a business, creating content, or mastering a skill, the principle remains the same. Rush creates mistakes. Precision creates legacy. Now coming back to Mat Armstrong. What he experienced inside that factory wasn't just about Bugatti. It was about perspective. Because once you see how much effort goes into perfection, you stop looking at high-performance machines the same way again. You start seeing the invisible hours behind them, the unseen hands, the silent checks, the repeated inspections, the patience most people never think about. And that's a real secret Bugatti doesn't show in advertisements. Because they don't need to. The product speaks for itself. Now imagine this final thought. Every Bugatti you see on the road is not just a car. It is a timeline of decisions where good enough was never accepted, where every step was questioned, and every detail was challenged. That's why when people see a Bugatti pass by, they don't just see speed. They see obsession. And that is what Mat Armstrong revealed without even trying to reveal it. Not just how Bugatti builds cars, but why perfection still matters in a world that is slowly forgetting it. And maybe that's the real takeaway from all of this. Because in the end, the secret isn't in the factory. It's in the mindset that built it. And when you put all of this together, it finally makes sense why Bugatti is not just another car brand. It's not competing with other companies. It's competing with limits. Limits of engineering, limits of materials, limits of human patience. And that's exactly what Mat Armstrong captured in his experience. Because what he walked through wasn't just a factory tour. It was a system built on a question most companies don't even ask anymore. What if we refuse to accept anything less than perfection? Now think about that. In almost every industry today, the goal is speed, faster production, faster results, faster growth. But Bugatti takes the opposite route. They slow everything down, just to make sure nothing goes wrong. And somehow, in that slowness, they create some of the fastest machines in the world. That contradiction is what makes it legendary. But here's where it becomes even more interesting. Because after seeing everything, Mat didn't come out talking about horsepower or speed numbers. He came out talking about mindset, about discipline, about patience, about how every single detail matters when you're building something meant to last. And that's something most viewers don't expect from a video like this. Because at first, you click for cars, but you leave thinking about life. Now imagine if more industries worked like this. Not rushing, not cutting corners, not chasing shortcuts, but actually building things with intention. That's what makes Bugatti different. Not just the cars, but the philosophy behind them. And maybe that's the real reason people are so fascinated by it. Because deep down, we all know perfection like this is rare, almost disappearing in today's world. But inside that factory, it still exists, quiet, focused, uncompromising. And every car that leaves it carries that story with it. So the next time you see a Bugatti on the road, don't just think about speed. Don't just think about price. Think about everything you didn't see. The hours, the precision, the obsession, the silence behind the perfection. Because that is the real value of what Mat Armstrong revealed. Not just how Bugatti builds cars, but why true excellence will always take time. And maybe the biggest lesson from all of this is simple. Great things are never rushed. They are built, step by step, detail by detail, until there is nothing left to improve. And that is where perfection begins. And when you really think about it, that's what separates ordinary creation from legendary creation. Because ordinary creation asks, how fast can we finish this? But legendary creation asks, how perfect can this become before it leaves our hands? That's the line Bugatti never crosses. They don't rush release dates. They don't chase trends. They don't compromise standards. And in a world where almost everything is optimized for speed, that mindset almost feels outdated. But ironically, that outdated mindset is exactly what keeps them ahead. Now here's something powerful to imagine. Every Bugatti that rolls out of that facility is not just a finished product. It is a final version of hundreds of small decisions, each decision saying yes or no to perfection, each decision shaping something that will be remembered for decades. And Mat Armstrong, by stepping into that world, didn't just show us machines. He showed us the invisible discipline behind greatness. Because anyone can show you a car, but very few can make you understand what it takes to build it. And that's where this experience hits differently. It's not about cars anymore. It becomes about mindset. Because once you see how deep perfection goes inside Bugatti, you start questioning everything else that calls itself premium or high quality. You start noticing shortcuts everywhere. you start realizing how rare true craftsmanship actually is. And that realization sticks with you. Now imagine this for a second. A world where everything was built like Bugatti builds cars. Slow, intentional, carefully tested. No rush, no compromise. No, it's good enough. That world would feel very different. But it also shows why Bugatti stands alone. Because they are already living in that standard. And that's why their name doesn't need advertising in the same way others do. Their work is the advertisement. Now before we end this, there's one last thing Mat Armstrong made clear through everything he saw. Perfection is not an accident. It is a choice, a repeated choice, made every single day, by every single person involved. And that choice is what turns metal and carbon fiber into something people dream about. So when people see a Bugatti on the road and they react with shock, admiration, or disbelief, they are not just reacting to speed, they are reacting to discipline made visible. And that's something no shortcut can never replicate, because shortcuts always end quickly, but perfection echoes for a lifetime. And maybe that's the final truth behind Bugatti's secret production world. It's not secret because it is hidden. It's secret because most people aren't willing to slow down enough to understand it. And now that you've seen it, you won't look at hypercars the same way again. Not just machines, not just luxury, but the result of extreme patience turned into engineering. And that is what Mat Armstrong revealed, without even needing to say it directly. So next time you hear about speed, power, or performance, remember this. Behind every fast machine, there's a slow, silent, obsessive process that built it. And that is where greatness really comes from.